I pull that, they don't like to see you winning. They wanna see you in a penitentiary. I need me a little baby who gon' listen. Girl, I don't wanna be the one you ignorant. My mama told me, boy, make a decision.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk Podcast /YouTube/We Do It All. As always, I am your host, John. Very happy to be here. My boy Jay, his over there in the 6. How you doing, baby?
Good, man. Ready to talk about these Thunders. We go way back. As a Warrior fan, we go way back. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Definitely. My boy Junior in the 714. What's going on, baby?
Man, happy to be here. Excited to talk about the Thunder. Electrifying young team, a team for the future, of course, because they have 1,000 draft picks over the next couple years. So really excited to kind of talk to Alex here and see how he feels about the future. That's an interesting team.
Yes, sir, man. Very interesting team. So, for a very interesting team, we had to bring a very interesting and educated guest. So, Alex, we are very happy to have you on for this Thunder episode and talk about the Thunder. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, talk a little bit to the fans about yourself and how you became a Thunder fan.
Sure. So as far as becoming a Thunder fan, just like anything else, living in Oklahoma, I was first a fan of the Hornets whenever they came to Oklahoma City because of Katrina for those 2 seasons. And then when the Thunder came in, it's civil fandom. You just have to cheer for the team that's closest to you that you can get season tickets for. So got season tickets for them, went to the games, and fortunately for us, that team matured very rapidly. And so they started off very bad, but got very good very quickly. And it's just something that, I think for the fan base, Oklahoma City fan base now, it was kind of a Cinderella story for those first 10 years. There were some downs, some ups and downs and stuff like that. But I think now you're starting to see what a real NBA franchise has to go through to get good again. And so, this is a maturation process for the fan base also.
Definitely. And you kicked it off perfectly. The first question that we love to ask here is, as a Thunder fan, are you content with how the year went? And you just, you kind of answered the question by telling us that, the Thunder came out as a franchise, had a lot of early success, but now they're realizing the real ups and downs that you have to go through to become a successful franchise, like the Lakers, like the Spurs, like the Celtics, and all of those great franchises. But Alex, are you content with? We know you're not content with how the year went. You guys are 14 seed, 22-50. Like that's difficult to be happy with. But are you content with how the year is playing out heading into the off season, and now that you guys with the draft picks that you guys made and the moves that you guys have been making?
So just kind of like to reference the question that you made, or the kind of the statement that you made. So I wasn't happy with the year because we went into the year wanting to get a worse record than we really did, and putting us in a position to where we could maybe get a higher pick than 6 like we did in this draft. And of course, lottery luck is lottery luck. It's bad luck. It's good luck. It's just the luck of the draw sometimes. But man, we started off this year, the first half of the year, and, we had George Hill, we had Al Horford, we had a healthy Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And that team, the floor for that team was basically not where we wanted the floor to be. We wanted the floor to be a little bit lower. And so, we won we won enough games to stay in the thick of it until the middle of the season. And then they traded George Hill. They sat Al Horford. And then, SGA had his plantar fasciitis injury. And then we started tanking. But I kind of wanted us to start tanking before that because as a small market team, the way you get better is through draft picks. LeBron is not coming to Oklahoma City. Jimmy Butler is not coming to Oklahoma City. Kawhi Leonard is not coming to Oklahoma City. So you have to draft your stars. And so the way you draft it, the way you get stars is you get higher draft picks. And at 6, we don't know what Josh Giddey is going to be. But we saw Cade Cunningham, we saw Jalen Green, we saw Evan Mobley kind of go in the draft. And it was just like, those are the players we wanted. We're happy with Josh Giddey. We'll roll with him. But you really wanted those top 3 draft picks.
Yeah, and you mentioned you mentioned the importance of for small market teams building through the draft. And I mean, if that's the concept, if that's the roadmap, then you guys are in a very, very good place because you guys have tons and tons of draft picks. So, you know, for most of these team interviews, what we do, Alex, is sometimes before we get into, you know, the negative stuff, we kind of like talk about the highlights. But, you know, there weren't many to talk about for last season. So I got a lot of players that I want to talk to you about because you guys are the youngest team in the league right now. You guys have an average age of 21, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? When if you really think about it, like we're talking about a grown man league and you got an average age of 21. That's crazy. So I got some players that I want to talk to you about, and I want to see how you feel about them as some young players. So let's start with the number one guy we know over there in SGA, man. So talk to us about how you just feel about SGA just as a player, being a Thunder fan. How happy are you to land it on a gem like that?
And also, I just want to add one thing too. If you could also talk a little bit about the Paul George trade, how you came to get SGA, how you felt when that trade occurred. Because I mean, obviously, you know, Paul George is a ready-made superstar. SGA is one for the future, but he's looking great right now.
So we'll start there. We'll start with the Paul George trade. So I mean, the Paul George. It's funny. Like as a Thunder fan, you were conflicted because you saw like Paul George is a superstar, Russell Westbrook was a superstar, and you were like, hey, we have these two guys in tow, but you know, we had Westbrook and Paul George for 2 seasons before that, and it was first round exits. Like as a real fan and as somebody that objectively you look at the team as like a media member for the most part, you look at that and you're like, that's the cap for this team, man. This team can't go any higher than first or second round. You know, it's just the reality of the situation. And so when the trade happened, you know, I looked at the draft picks first. You know, I know we got Danilo Gallinari also. And I know we got SGA. And SGA, you know, he was coming off his rookie season. He was a promising player. But to the degree where he has expanded his game to where it was last season, I would have never seen that happen as far as when we first made the trade. So seeing how he played last season, man, I was impressed. I was completely impressed. You know, I was a little bit worried that this guy was not a number one caliber guy. But he showed the chops last year, and he showed that, you know, give him the ball in crunch time situations, he's going to go ahead and make the plays for the most part. He led the league in drives, getting to the basket. And so those types of things, like as long as he starts working on little things now around the edges. So if you're leading the league in drives, you should be in the top percentage of players getting free throw attempts. You know, you should be getting to that point. And so, you know, getting those things in order and getting, you know, working around the fringes, I'm completely happy that we got a guy like SGA in that trade. Like, I'm hoping that a couple years from now, that trade is known as the SGA trade, not the Paul George trade.
Right.
You highlighted so many of the things that SGA does well, but one thing that you talked about, you said, you know, he needs to fix around like the kinks around the edges, you know, and one of the biggest things that I feel like people were saying about him is that he needs to put on weight. But I don't know if you've seen that Instagram picture that he put up, man, recently, but SGA has been in the gym. He's been looking real big. And I actually have, I don't know if you would call this a hot take or not, but, you know, some people are saying that SGA had his breakout year last year, but I think he's due for a whole nother level. Like I'm talking like this last year, he averaged 23 points. I'm talking 26 and up level. Like SGA can do that, especially in the situation that he's in Thunder, where he will get all the shots, where they will say SGA go out there and make all the mistakes. And especially with Kemba being gone, you know, I thought when Kemba got there, I was like, oh man, like it's definitely going to take some shots away from SGA. But now, you know, the whole team being SGA's, I still have a opinion that he's still due for that breakout year. But let me go to my guys. Okay, Jay Hill, how do you feel about SGA? You know, as a player, do you still think that he's due for another breakout year? So just talk to us how you feel about that.
Absolutely. I mean, last year he was on the verge of a breakout season. I thought he was playing great, and it showed even more. I mean, the year before, obviously, you guys didn't mention Chris Paul was a great mentor for him. And I think that's really paid off. And you've seen that even aided to the development of his game. And then we saw it with when he didn't really have much around him this past season. But for me, I always mention, you know, people when they say players under 23, like who would you have as a player, Luka, Trae Young, Jason Tatum, Zion. For me, SGA is like right, if not in that conversation, but a tier below, just right on, that second tier of a player who I would really want to develop. So I think the Thunder having him as, their centerpiece, and it's clear that they're comfortable with that. I think that's a great direction they're moving in, because I think SGA, to answer your question, has a lot of room to grow on, and I think his trajectory is only going upwards.
Definitely, man. Definitely. And Junior, what about you? How do you feel about SGA?
I feel the same way like all you guys feel. I think he's going to end up breaking out into, a kind of a different level now. He's going to be in that Donovan Mitchell, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown, that realm of player now. I think, I don't know if he's about going to be like maybe Tatum and Luka level quite yet, but I think that Brandon Ingram, that Donovan Mitchell level, I think he'll probably give us that this year. And he's showing that improvement.
One of the things that I saw coming into this year was I thought that his numbers would increase because of volume, but I thought his efficiency would go down. And it was the opposite. His numbers increased, but his efficiency stayed or even increased a little bit more than what it was. And so that's what gives me promise and hope in coming into this season that, hey, he's putting on that muscle because he knows that in order to increase his points per game, in order to increase, his attacking the rim, he has to put on that muscle because he has to absorb the contact. He has to be able to take that contact in order to survive an 82-game season. And so I think that the efficiency is going to stay the same, but I do think that those free throw attempts are going to go up. And you're talking about those 4 extra points. Where are they going to come from? More than likely, they're going to come from the line.
Yeah, definitely, man. And Alex, let's put you in a quick hypothetical, man. If Sam Presti hit your phone and he said, Alex, I'm getting some trade requests here for SGA, but I don't know. Is he untouchable? So to you, Alex, is SGA untouchable?
I mean, you always have to hear what the other player is in that trade. So like Jay Hill said, if you're talking about Luka, if you're talking about maybe even Trae Young, maybe not Trae Young because you do have issues. You do have deficiencies with Trae Young. You talk about Luka, maybe even Zion, Tatum, exactly. You're talking. You're taking that call. Anything past that, you're not taking that call.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So let me ask you a question here really quick. I'm gonna sidetrack a bit, but there's a lot of teams throughout the league. Some of them are in win now mode. A lot of them are in win later. And obviously, I think the Thunder is the biggest win later team there is right now, right? Especially with all the draft picks. As a Thunder fan, how do you feel about that? Knowing that you're going into the season, it's probably going to be a losing season. You're kind of just planning for the future. 2024, 2025, like. How do you feel about that? Would you rather go win now and, forget all those picks? Like, talk to me as a Thunder fan, how you feel about this win later situation where you're not going to see results for 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. So like I can talk to you as a Thunder fan, but I know most Thunder fans, most Lay fans are not going to feel this way. Like I know coming into this process that it's going to be a couple seasons where it looks bad. This season's going to be bad because we're going to be playing a ton of young guys. Like we're going to be playing Giddey 30 minutes. We're going to be playing Poku, 30 minutes, Baisley 30 minutes. Like all those players are going to be getting time. And young players make mistakes. Sometimes young players go out there and they got momentum on their side and, they take a game or two here and there. But you're going to lose a lot of games and it's going to be ugly too. They're going to be ugly losses too. And so as a Thunder fan myself, I know that coming into it, Sam Presti put out that, he put out that letter in the Oklahoman a couple years ago saying, look, this is going to be a process. It's not going to be something that's done overnight. It's going to take time. And so, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, Thunder fans have been completely spoiled and they need to realize that for a small market team, in order to get good, you have to be bad. That's the reality of the situation. Right. LeBron's not coming through that door, so I know that it's going to take time. The rest of Oklahoma City Thunder fans, do they know that? They'll get to know that real quick, because it's going to happen. But what you need to do, what they need to do is just enjoy the process, enjoy these young guys growing before their eyes because, hey, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, they were all rookies and first-year players whenever we got them also. And they went through their bumps and they went through their development. So we got to give these guys the same chance.
Right.
So Alex, as we transition to our next segment here, we move into our clutch talk timeout. So what I usually ask our guests is, who is your go-to player? Like, who is the clutchest player? Who is the player you're going to in crunch minutes, crunch time? And for me, I when I look at your roster, I see, Lou Dort, who's made a couple big shots. For instance, I think of, he's a gritty player, but obviously I think, I have my answer. But who is it for you? Who's your clutch player you're going to night in and night out?
I mean, the obvious answer is going to be SGA.
Right.
But you want to get in situations where you have close games, where you can give Lou Dort an opportunity to maybe take a last second shot. You give Bazley an opportunity to take a last second shot. This is definitely going to be a year of exploration in different scenarios, different situations. And so if a team knows that SGA is going to get that ball at the end, they're going to probably double team him. And so who's going to be open? Poku, is he going to be open? Maladon, is he going to be open? So, more than likely SGA, but if the defense is keyed in on him, I'm thinking probably Dort or probably Bazley.
Okay. That makes sense. And then since you've kind of brushed off, you talked about, a bit more about their roster. What is your starting lineup looking like next season and kind of rotation? And does your starting lineup, because I know you got a lot of players in the backcourt with Giddey looking to get minutes as a rookie, you got Lou Dort, obviously you mentioned Bazley, and then kind of your second unit and what's that looking like for the upcoming season?
So I think the starting lineup is going to be extremely fluid this year. I think your mainstays are going to be SGA and Dort and Bazley. I think those are going to be your mainstays. If I'm going to go ahead and say opening night, who my starting five is, I say SGA, Dort, probably Poku at the 3, Bazley at the 4, and then Favors at the 5. And so my second team, you're probably going to have Maladon at the point, probably Poku. Said Maladon. You have Trey Mann, the other rookie that we got, giving him some time. Ty Jerome, he's out there. Like, you're going to have this team is going to go 10 deep every night, so you're going to have a fluidity about this roster. It's going to be headache piercing sometimes, as far as like guys going in and out of the lineup, but you're going to have a ton of opportunity for development with this team.
I got a player, Alex, that I really want to ask you about, because I personally am just rooting for him, and I've been rooting for him ever since he stepped in the league, and that's Darius Bazley, man. Now we've been talking about him several times throughout the pod. I just like him so much because, like, if he can figure out, we're talking about a 6'8" player with a 7-foot wingspan, but he's just so inconsistent. He just can't put it together. He can't string it in enough games. So I wanted to get a sense of how you feel about him, and what do you want to see the Thunder do with him moving forward?
So, as far as anything with Bazley, if he can get some consistency on his jumper, his 3-point jumper, that's going to open up a whole new realm for him, because that's the one thing that's kind of holding him back is the 3-point jumper. He tends to take jumpers that aren't very set. He tends to take, running jump shots. He tends to take just jumpers off the dribble that don't need to be taken. And so I'm hoping that this is actually his first real off season. Like, heading into his rookie year, you got to remember that he hadn't played basketball or organized basketball the year before that. He went and did that internship over at New Balance. So he did that. So that's an entire year lost right there. And you lose things whenever you don't necessarily play 5-on-5 all the time. And so he came into the league, and then we had the whole COVID thing. And then last year was kind of a crazy year also. So this is actually the first off season that he's had to go ahead and kind of work with the Thunder personnel, say, hey, you need to work on this. You need to do this. And so I don't know if you guys saw that clip of him, summer league basketball highlights. They all showed the good things, but man, that jumper that he had in those highlights was looking very wet. It was looking very nice. And so can that translate to the game? we don't know. But in order for him to unlock his potential and unlock any type of consistency, he has to have that consistent 3-point jumper. Because last year he started a lot of the games at the end of the season by himself, where he was basically the guy, and he struggled a little bit. He struggled with that role. He started to learn how to drive in. He knew that you got to take it to the hole strong, and so you saw a lot more dunks later in the year. You saw a lot more like just in your face type stuff. And so I'm hoping that he starts to combine all that stuff together, and I'm hoping that he starts to use his length on the defensive end. He has that potential to be that, not necessarily a 3-and-D wing, but to be a player that's good overall, like has an overall game. And so that's what I'm hoping for him, and that's what I'm thinking the Thunder are looking. Because the thing is with Bazley, if he doesn't really work out this year, it may be time to try to think about trading him, because he's coming up on an extension. And so this is kind of a make or break year for him.
So, and him and now entering his third year, if he doesn't have the year that you're expecting, or nearly the year that you're expecting, would you be ready to put the bust label on him?
No, I wouldn't, because he was picked number 21.
Okay.
So I wouldn't like anybody pick that late. For the most part, they're going to be a project type player. They're going to be a player that you want them to be a rotation player. I think the Thunder want him to be a little bit more than that. And so I wouldn't put a bust label on him, but I wouldn't necessarily start to think that, hey, maybe this guy, we need to send this guy somewhere else. Yeah, exactly. And maybe get some assets for him.
Okay. And then another big player that I want to see how you feel about him is, player that we were mentioning, we all smiled for here on the Zoom. For Lou Dort, what I'm saying? Lou Dort always gets some love. That's Junior's favorite player, man. Junior loves Lou Dort. I actually have a funny story. Like 2 years ago in the bubble, when Houston Rockets were playing Thunder, I remember Junior would rave to me about Lou Dort. He's like, no, Lou Dort's the hardest stopper. He's locking everybody down. And I used to always tell him, I was like, Junior, Lou Dort will never be anything more than a role player in this league. But man, was I wrong. Because I really thought that, because, if you look at that series, that bubble series, Lou Dort was scared to do anything offensively. He was scared to shoot. He was scared to take it to the hoop, but he was a gritty, crazy defender. And I was like, man, like, this is the offensive league. The league is now an offensive league. Players thrive, when they're very well offensively gifted. So I was like, Lou won't be no more than a role player, but man, did he prove me wrong this last year. He improved his 3-point percentage from 29 to 34, taking double the amount of shots that he takes. He's just being aggressive, man, being aggressive. I've been getting, people just getting on Ben Simmons now, but I've been getting on Ben Simmons for years. I'm beginning, because the biggest reason I have with him,
Ben Simmons hater here.
I'm the number one Ben Simmons hater, because the number one,
right here, number one right here.
I'm fed up, because
you 6 years in the league, you ain't done shit offensively. You gotta step that up, homie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And the thing I always used to say is, how can you be a point guard in today's league and be scared to shoot? Like, at least try the shot, man. And Lou Dort is an exact example of someone who at least tried the shot and the shit worked out, man. So talk to me about Lou Dort, Alex. How do you feel about Lou Dort?
Lou Dort's, man, he's the heart and soul of the team, man. He's, it's a guy that, and here's the crazy thing. Like, you look at Lou and you look at where this team is going, and a 6'4" shooting guard out there, like, I don't think Lou Dort's future is going to be as a starter on this team. I think his future is going to be more as like a Marcus Smart role, where spot starter here and there, especially with injuries. But for the most part, he's going to go in there. He's going to be a bulldog defender. He's going to help you out offensively, and he's going to be in the finishing lineup. At the end of the game, he's going to be in that lineup. But I do think now what we're seeing with Lou Dort is, there's literally 30 teams, there's 30 GMs out there that missed on him, including Sam Presti, not necessarily drafted him late in the first round or in the second round. Like, he was undrafted. He got signed to a 2-way contract. And the way that he's improved since then, man, it's amazing to me. Like, he had a 40-point game against Utah last year. Like, just kind of like think about that, man. That's Utah. That's not no scrub team either. That's
It's number one team in the league, technically.
Exactly. It's the number one team in the West. They got one of the best defenses in the league, and he put up a 40 spot on them. Like, he's a player that you look at him and you're like, I don't know what the heck to expect from him. Like, I don't know what he's going to give me from night to night, but he's going to give me consistency and he's going to give me good defense. I love him. I love him on this team, man, and I hope we keep him for a long time.
Okay, and with you saying he's one of those players that you don't know what to expect. That actually leads me perfectly to my next question: is Lou? I know he's not a untouchable talent, but he has potential to be because if he plays out to what we think he's going to play out to be, man, that's a player every NBA team wants on a team. He knows his role, plays defense, and can knock down the shots when it's needed. And that's huge on any NBA team. So is he untouchable to you?
I think right now he is. So right now he is because his value, he's underrated. He's making $1.5 million. He's out there as a starter for the most part. Now, revisit this question 3 years from now, whenever his extension kicks in and he's making $18 million, $19 million, because the market is probably going to dictate that if he keeps on this trend. Then that's a discussion that we can have. But right now, for the most part, he's untouchable.
It's the same, John. It's the same exact thing I used to say with Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma is by no means a superstar, but he was getting paid, I think, $3 million. He was far outweighing what he was getting. Like the talent to contract ratio for Kuzma was insane. And then he got that extension. Now he's playing for the Wizards. So it's the same thing with Lou Dort. I mean, that talent to contract ratio, that's what dictates. That's because that's how you can bring in better players with bigger salaries, because you have your Lou Dort's making $1.5 million. That's the awesome part about a player like that.
Yep.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So, Alex, as we go ahead and start to wrap it up here, so we for these team interviews, we usually ask 2 questions. We usually ask these 2 last questions, but for your interview, we're going to ask 3 because clearly, we see that Thunder are in rebuilding stage. So I want to ask you a question: how many years until you guys get back into that playoff picture?
So I would put it at 2 years after this one. And the reason I say that is because we have like 5 draft picks coming up possibly in this next draft. And then we have like 6 or 7 possibly coming up in the 2023 draft. We're not going to draft all those players. We're not going to use all those picks. And so what do you have to do? You're going to have to start to package all those things together to come up with either a package for superstar or a package for somebody. So I'm keeping my eye around the league. I'm keeping my eye on Minnesota. If that doesn't work out here within the next 2 years, I could definitely see Cat saying, get me the hell out of here. And there's a relationship between Cat and SGA. There's that Kentucky connection between them. And so I'm not necessarily pining too much for Cat because defensively, he's not that great. But as far as a player that can play with SGA and complement him extremely well, if you look at what Al Horford did last year as a pick and pop big man, I can't imagine what it's going to be with somebody like Cat. And so if things don't work out in this next draft, as far as getting somebody like Chet Holmgren or Paolo Banchero, you probably need to start thinking about, hey, maybe Cat's available, maybe somebody else is available. And so I do think that the team, the Thunder, start to make big moves, probably starting this upcoming draft, and see what we can get from there. So I do think probably 2 years from now before we start making the playoff.
Okay. And Jay Hill, what's a predicament what's a guess that you have? How many years until you see Thunder getting back into the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm right there with Alex. Probably like 2023, 24 season, when they have a chance to develop those pieces, or they're trading for a superstar. In the next 2 years, there's going to be a lot of free agents, big name free agents that are going to be either re-signing or looking to go somewhere. So they could be on a 1-year deal or have however X amount of years on their contract. So perfect opportunity for team like OKC to make a move. So 3 years.
And you,
Yeah, no, that's more than
if we want to look at teams in flux, also, like, my ultimate scenario is maybe like Boston or maybe like New Orleans, because Boston, they're supposed to be a championship contending team. They were billed as that over the last couple of seasons, and they have not gotten to that point. And so they don't improve, and the East is getting a lot better with the Bucks, with the Nets, with the Heat. They don't improve,
Sixers.
and they don't. Yeah, the Sixers. Like, I don't see them being better than any of those 4 teams. And so how long before Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown say, hey, get me out of here? Boston's a big city, yay, but we're not winning anything, and our cap sheet is stuffed. So, there's going to be a lot of things that play out over these next 2 years that can be in the Thunder's favor big time.
So, Alex, tell me, Thunder obviously came to be as a team in 2008. Did you have a team that you supported before the Thunder?
So, I mean, before the Thunder, of course, the Oklahoma City had the Hornets for 2 seasons.
Right, during Katrina, right?
Yeah, during Katrina, Chris Paul's, first 2 years in the league. Supported them also. I love that team, man. That team, I was a basketball fan before the Hornets arrived, but being able to see live basketball all the time, man, it just took my fandom up to another level. So, of course, I was a fan of theirs when they were in town. And then before that, just like any other kid in the 90s, Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls.
Absolutely.
So, that's what sparked my love for the game.
And you're our insider source here on the Thunder. So let me ask you, are there a lot of Seattle Supersonic fans that used to be Sonic fans that are now Thunder fans, or like, how do you see that? Because
nah, man, that's taboo, man. That's taboo to do that. Like I know a couple people, like even like one of the people on my podcast, he actually lives in Seattle. He's from Tulsa, but he lives in Seattle. And so, he's the dumbass that walks around with Thunder gear and gets cussed out all the time. But he's 6'4", so
it's tough.
Nobody messing with him too much, But yeah, man, like that's a little bit taboo, man. Like you had some Sonics fans that in the early days, this is the team they cheered for. This is the team that they knew. So they became pseudo kind of Thunder fans. But I think as the years wore on, I don't really think they stuck around. I think they're kind of waiting for their team to come back.
Yeah,
they're ready for that.
Which
expansion.
they should, man. I always keep saying, I think the Clippers should go up there. Steve Ballmer, he freaking owns Microsoft. It's all out of Seattle. And then LA's already got a team. Like, that's not going to happen. No, they're just getting a new arena right now. But that would have been a perfect fit.
It would have, except, Seattle's not as big as LA.
Yeah, that's true.
True, man. All right. So Alex, as we go ahead and start to wrap it up here, we got these last 2 questions here for you, and so we know that you think that it's going to take about around 2 years after this year for Thunder to find their way back into the playoffs. But what about this next year, this 2021-2022 season? Where do you see the Thunder finishing?
So I think it's going to be a competition between them and Houston for the bottom of the Western Conference. I think I see them finishing with a bottom 3 record. And that's kind of where we want to be. We want to be in that position to go ahead and get, as good a draft picks as possible. So yeah, I think there, and I'll be okay with that. The thing is, when you have rebuilding seasons, you want to see 2 things. You want to see development from the players that you have. And then you want to see, interest in the team still. You don't want to see an empty arena. You don't want to see things like that. So, hopeful in development and hopeful in, the late Thunder fan kind of still sticking around and kind of still going to the game.
Okay. And as we ask our last question here, Alex, what's one word or one phrase that you would use to describe how you feel as a Thunder fan this past season that just happened? And then one word or one phrase that you would use to describe how you feel as a Thunder fan coming into this 2021-2022 season?
So for last year, it would be patience.
Okay.
And for this year, it's hopefulness.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Wow.
I like that.
Yeah.
Patience and hopefulness. Okay. All right. That's
put that shit on a shirt. Let's sell it.
Put that shit on the shirt for real. I like that, Alex. I like that, man. Okay, all right. So this is a good point for us to go ahead and just move forward to our closing segment here. We got called Guess the Player. This is how Guess the Player works, Alex. I have 3 players here listed for you, Jay Hill, and Junior. You guys have to guess which player it is. I have accolades. I have things that they did, numbers that they wore, teams that they played for, and then you guys each have 2 guesses. You can just blurt it out as soon as you get it, but you only got 2 guesses.
Okay.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. All right, this is our closing segment here. All right, so
active player, right?
I got okay. I got it's all types. I got active and inactive. I'll tell you this player is retired. Okay, this player is retired. Okay. The first hint I'll give you is he's a Hall of Famer. He played for 6 teams. He's a 1-time NBA champion.
Gary Payton.
No.
Ooh.
He's
I'm thinking like
yeah, you got to call it out quick.
Yeah.
He's a 4-time All-Star.
Tracy McGrady.
No. He's a 1-time blocks leader, a 2-time rebounding leader, and a 4-time defensive player of the year.
Oh, that's Ben Wallace.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, Alex.
That's good.
That's my dude right there. That's bad. That's my dude. I didn't know he played for 6 teams, but that's my dude right there.
He just recently got inducted to the Hall of Fame, man. So I had to show him some love. All right. This next player, he's still playing, still active. All right. So this guy, he's played on 4 teams. He's a 2-time gold medalist. 2-time All-Star Game MVP, 9-time All-Star, a 3-time assist leader.
Russell Westbrook.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Alex is Alex came on Clutch Talk not playing. Okay.
Yeah, that was
hey man, you can't bring Russell Westbrook to a Thunder fan and not expect him to know his resume, man.
I had to throw that one in there. Okay. All right, last player here. Last player. Hey, Junior and Jay Hill, you guys better get it together. Alex is wiping the floor clean right now.
All
right, here we go. All right. This last player, he's a 1-time 3-point challenge champion. He is a 5-time All-Star, a 1-time rebounding leader, a 1-time NBA champion, a 2-time gold medalist, a 1-time most improved player of the year. This guy became the player that we know him to be in the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, Kevin Love.
KG?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, hey, Alex came in here not playing today, man.
Yo,
what's up?
Sweet.
You guys, man, my Zoom crashed. I was out.
Your Zoom crashed?
I was out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I couldn't. I got the Google Doc open. I couldn't see your Zoom.
No, it's okay. It's all right. Who was the player though?
For this last player?
The very last one, yeah.
Kevin Love.
That's I need to hear the hints later. I'm gonna ask you. No, that's awesome. Did Alex get it?
Yeah, Alex got it. Of course he got it, man.
My guy, Alex, come on. Business today.
Man, all right. This is a good place for us to go ahead and wrap it up, man. So, Alex, we all want to thank you, man. Like, really, we want to thank you for coming on here and blessing us with your time. You're very, very knowledgeable, not just a Thunder fan, knowledgeable NBA fan. So, do you have any last words to say here before we sign off?
No, man, just thank you for having me on. If you want to check out the podcast, it's going to be OKC Topic Thunder. And just, check us out, man. Check us out.
Yes, sir, man. I'm for all the fans watching on YouTube. I'm gonna put Alex's Twitter and his podcast right there, right in his little bubble, man. So make sure you guys show him some love, man. And for everyone listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Alex, you want to just shout the name of your podcast out one more time?
Topic Thunder.
Topic Thunder. That's perfect, man. So for all the fans, man. So if you guys listen on Apple Podcasts, make sure to go show some love. So Jay Hill, you got any last words to say here for Alex and all the Thunder fans?
Alex, appreciate you coming on and excited to see what the Thunder do in the future as well. So,
okay. Oh, yeah. What about you, Junior?
Yeah, no, just appreciate you coming on, Alex. It was a lot of fun. You know a lot about basketball, a lot about Thunder. Like I said, you're an inside Thunder source. So excited to have you on. And honestly, best of luck to the Thunder this upcoming season, the next couple of seasons as we see them unwind and, Sam Presti's years long plan start to unravel.
Yes, sir. Man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. And that's it. We out of here. Clutch Talk out.
Peace.